Thanks for joining us this morning. My name is Phil Herman. I'm one of the partners here at the Impact Group, and I'm joined by Tom Speaks. Tom is one of the founding partners here, started the Impact Group with Don Polyak 22 years ago. I joined the Impact Group about 16 months ago. My entire career up to joining the Impact Group was in public education. I was a teacher, a principal, director of human resources, and assistant superintendent, and for 11 years as superintendent. And so I had the opportunity to come and join the Impact Group and work with schools in a different capacity, and work with organizations that we work with in a different capacity. And that brings me to all of you here today. Tom, you want to talk a little bit about your background?
Gosh, I started the Impact Group with Don about 22 years ago, and we love to serve schools. So we're excited to be here today. I'm going to get right into it because we have 27 minutes. So I want to make sure it's worthwhile. You joined us today to talk about how to have a great convocation. I mean, how can we have a great convocation which really kicks off the year in a really positive and exciting way? And I guess the first thing I want to ask, and Phil is a veteran of many a great convocation, so I want to ask Phil, I mean, why even worry about that? Why is it a good idea to have a great convocation? This may seem obvious, but you'd be surprised, gang, about how many people just kind of roll in. It's just something else you do. But why is it important to really to dedicate some time and effort to this?
Yeah, I think for most school districts, that convocation, that opening day, is the one opportunity that we have as leaders to have our entire school district together. A few school districts have something at the end of the year or one other time, but it's pretty rare that we get all of our staff together for any period of time. And this is our shot. This is our shot to set the tone. It's our shot to express our appreciation for our staff. It's our shot to ultimately lay out some of the things that we are anticipating throughout the year. But most importantly, it's to be able to say thanks, to set a vision for the work of where we are headed, to celebrate the people that are ultimately going to be having the greatest impact on the lives of the students, and those are those that have the most direct impact or interaction with students. And so this is our one shot. It's important to do what we can to invest in our staff in that moment and to connect with them in order to be able to set the tone for the school year.
As we talk about setting the tone, Phil, you're a big proponent of the why. You're a big proponent of constantly linking things back to our why. Just explain that a little bit. And it may seem obvious, but I've really enjoyed the way you've presented in the past, using the convocation specifically as that method.
Yeah, I mean, I think there are a lot of things that school districts do to open the school year, and we would try to do some really fun things to open the year. We would have the marching band, come in, like everyone's in there, and then all of a sudden the doors pop open and the marching band full blown come down both aisles and is performing fight songs in front of the whole staff. We have student performances. We developed a rock band one summer, changed the lyrics to Bohemian Rhapsody, and had our teaching staff perform a surprise rock performance of a changed lyric Bohemian Rhapsody to set the tone for the school year. But in doing those things, it's not just, those aren't just little gigs or tricks. Of course, they're a lot of fun, and we set a fun tone for the school year. But we always have to tie that event back to what we are there to do. Why do we have a marching band in there? Because it's a reminder that of that enthusiasm, that excitement, and that it's our students. It is about our students and having the impact on their lives. It is putting students in the forefront, in front of us on that opening day to remind, this is why we are here. Why did we have a teacher rock band? I'll share with you the words I said. to those teachers. I pulled up some of that speech, and they performed. I'll put the link in of the teachers performing. It was kind of in the chat. It was a lot of fun, but I said to them, to our staff after that, I said, I was just talking about talents before our teacher performed the song. And that's the thing about music performances. They are demonstrations of the beauty created when talents come together, where the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. And as incredible as our performers were today, their individual talents and your individual talents that you were thinking about when you closed your eyes, those talents pale in comparison to your abilities as educators. The talents you bring to your classrooms and to the buildings and to each of your roles, they are honed and they're refined each and every year. And then they're combined with those talents of your peers. And those talents create a virtual symphony to provide our children, our students with a launching pad into life. So anything that we do like that would always be tied into a message of why we are here. We did a music performance and celebrated talents of our individual teachers, but realized that those talents pale in comparison to our collective talents and what we're setting out to do. Again, it's setting that tone and building enthusiasm. So I really encourage any of you on the call to think about ways where you can make the day fun and impactful and memorable, but don't do it just for fun's sake. Do it to drive home a point. That's to answer Tom's question about the why. It was a really long answer to that, by the way.
Good answer. And I appreciate what you said a moment ago there about ride that enthusiasm. I mean, I think I've heard you say before, and I appreciate this, that fundamentally educators are optimistic. And certainly there's a continuum anytime you mention a group of people, but they're optimistic and they're coming back from summer and hopefully they're well rested. So we have this enthusiasm. And what do you think is the role of the convocation and kind of you're taking this and propelling it forward?
I agree with you, Tom. I think that educators are naturally optimistic. And I think that educators more so now than ever are doing really hard jobs that are emotionally and physically exhausting. And we're coming into a school year after some rest in the summer. And it's amazing, even though you might come off a year where we feel beaten down, most staff members, most teachers, most people that work in schools come back with this is going to be a great one attitude, which is incredible. And we want to capitalize on that. We want to build that up as much as possible because we know that there are going to be very real challenges. We know that it's going to be tiring. We want to be able to set a tone and that ultimately lifts those people up, lifts them up together and in collaboration with one another. And so again, those messages on the opening day ultimately are about how do we lift people up? We provide them hope. We talk about those things that we're going to do together that year to make an impact on teachers' lives. We talk about appreciation. We know that expressing our appreciation and our gratitude for the hard work that people are doing in very sincere ways builds people up. It builds that energy up. And we paint a clear picture of what to expect. We also want to be able to do that. Do not go down into the details. If there are major initiatives that we're going to be working on this year, reference those as the ways that we're going to help impact students' lives. But I would really caution anyone in terms of going into the details of the new evaluation system that we're going to be implementing this year. That's a way to kill an opening day. Don't go into all the details of the professional development they're going to get the next day. That's not the time to do it in that convocation. Referencing those things, when we talk about impacting the lives of students, we know that it's important to have structures in place, and we're going to spend some time in some professional development this year to get some of those structures in place, referencing those, giving people a peek of what's to come, and how those initiatives ultimately are good for students, I think is a great use on opening day. But by no means in that opening convocation start going into those kind of details.
Let's talk about that. I mean, it's one thing. I saw a couple. Brian actually smiled when you said that. But you have no idea how many people we've talked to, and I'm being a little facetious here, but I'm gonna open up a convocation with the bloodborne pathogen update. I want to make sure everybody's aware of what's going on with the bloodborne like that. If you have all this enthusiasm and it's a big bucket of cold water, so the idea is Phil, let's expand on that a little bit about once again we have levy issues, we have difficult stuff. maybe high level updates, but man, at least a lot of folks too will have a couple of days of convocation. You can get into that meat a little bit later, but by gosh, at the beginning, when we have everybody together in the auditorium or whatever your auditorium is, how can it be positive? So what are some other things you've seen, Phil, as far as frankly, just accidental mistakes, just getting too weighty or too detailed?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important to share as a leader in that moment, or as leaders, whoever is up there. I think I've talked about appreciation, right? So there are opportunities to express appreciation, whether that be years of service awards, or I've seen things like Shining Apple Awards on those opening days. We always gave a leadership award as a leader, as a superintendent district. I think you can think about, is there an annual award that I want to give that sets the tone for what we want, like a service award, an unsung hero award, a leadership award? That's a great place to do that. Gives you a chance to really say what you value by providing that award. What we want to avoid are long and boring, right? So there should be a level of limiting the amount of time that you're talking, because as soon as you start to drone on, again, you're going to kill the enthusiasm. We do want to share some personal stories, but the personal story should have a point. I think there's tremendous value in sharing personal stories, something that you came to a realization about from something that you were reading, an experience you had as you refreshed over the summer on a vacation, some pictures of some of your personal life, your family, or hobbies that are important to you. I think you can weave those in. And it's tremendously valuable for people to see you as a human being, but also make sure that we're tying those again back to the overarching message of what we're setting out to do. Don't just share those for sharing's sake. By all means, don't put up the slide presentation of your family vacation to say, let me walk you through our week at the Outer Banks. You can reference that you were at the Outer Banks, and while you were there, you had this experience and it made you think about the impact that we're all going to have together, and then drive home that point. That serves multiple purposes, but be careful about droning on too long, or just going on and having things become boring. Of course, I referenced not going into the details on the professional development in the opening convocation with all. I think that you have to be cautious with that. In terms of, it is important for people to have a vision and understanding of what they're going to experience in the coming professional development days, or what we're setting out on initiatives for the year. But those should be referenced within the context of the overall impact that we're trying to have, as opposed to going down into the details in that event. We will lose the audience. I think that self-deprecating humor, making a little joke about ourselves, is wonderful. Again, it's a way to show our vulnerability, to show our humanness. But humor at someone else's expense, not good on an opening day, or in any presentation period for that matter. So those are things to do, but also a little bit of caution with how we about how we utilize them.
When you're telling a story, think of Steve Martin's advice in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles to John Candy. When you're telling a story, make sure it has a point. It's so much more interesting for the listener, right? So Phil's absolutely right. What's the point of it? How are we tying it back to things that are interesting? Now, about appreciation too. I very much appreciate what Phil's saying about having an award or two for those folks. That's great, but be careful that when we're giving awards that we don't just single out a couple of people. Make an effort. I mean, a school district is a huge organism. Thank you to all the custodians and the facilities that they did so work. The place we have today is because of what is. Thank you for finance and payroll, for to go out of your way to talk about the different aspects of the organization. Because truthfully, if all of us weren't working together, this whole complex organism that is the school district wouldn't run. So we found that appreciation actually is not only a good theme for convocation to really go, that could also be a theme for your year. And as you're thinking about convocation, you could say this especially, coming out of COVID, the rest, this is a year of appreciation. We're going to go out of our way to appreciate one another. We're going to go out of our way to appreciate the different departments. We're going to go out of our way to ensure that we have a real understanding. Why do we need our finance folks? Why are special ed so important? Why are our facility folks fantastic? Isn't it awesome that our bus drivers show up at 5 a.m. when it's 10 below to 0 out and they're still doing their job? Are we going out of our way to make sure that people are aware of that? We've just found that is a theme for the year, really is effective. And if you can have that as a maybe even a theme for your convocation, that goes a long way as well. Phil, what are some other thoughts we have as far as just having a really powerful, positive opening day or opening convocation?
Yeah, I mean, I would love to hear from some of our participants too, in terms of some of the things that they have seen in other districts or questions that they have. Don't minimize the opportunity to utilize opening day to highlight some of the talents and skills of people that you have in your district. You might have someone that's really good at doing video editing and likes to do it for fun. Have them create a promotional video. Again, tell them it's got to be short, but you might have, like I was talking about, the musical talents. I just asked principals, who's got music in their bones? Who are the talented people? I brought them all to get together the last day before school let out and said, hey, here's an idea I had about us doing a surprise music performance. What do you guys think? Some of them said, I'm in. Some of them said, I can't commit to doing something over the summer. And so we took the group that was ready to run and said, all right, let's create something and just have fun with it. There's a chance to involve students, and to say, how would you like to, you've got this incredible talent. How would you like to perform on opening day for all the teachers and administrators in the district? And staff, and bus drivers, support staff, everyone. We have a whole crew there, and so it's a chance to. It doesn't have to be the superintendent show. It can, as a matter of fact, it shouldn't be. We want to utilize our positions as leaders to highlight and share some of those talents, skills, and abilities that remind us of what we're there to do with others. And there's lots of different ways. We've seen, again, a superintendent dress up as Elvis and perform. Again, it can't just be a gig. It's got to be to drive home a point. But those are certainly ways to do that. I've seen superintendents pass out, tell a really poignant story about direction in his life, and the opportunities for us as educators to help set the direction for others, and pass out compasses to the entire staff. As they talked about direction, I've seen book studies launched on opening days that we're going to explore this concept together, and everyone in the whole district gets the book. So those are all things that can help set that tone in a really positive way, help build that wave. To participants on the call, other things that you've seen or questions that you have?
So it's funny you mentioned theme, because we've got a theme for next year already. We've already launched it to the staff. It's recharge. The idea, this was a tough year, so next year we're not going to limit Teacher Appreciation Week to 1 week and Staff Appreciation in 1 week in May. We're going to offer opportunities for recharge stations all throughout the year, whether it's coffee or an ice cream or this. We're going to try and get businesses to help support that. But what's the purpose? The purpose is we've got to stop going back to the pandemic well. We've got to burn the ship, and we've got to say, all right, we're going to recharge, refresh, and we can't keep going, oh, well, the pandemic, oh, the COVID. Like, we're a couple of years removed. We got to move away from that. Funny things, little incidental things can turn into tradition. So last year, for opening day convocation, I was sent a challenge by a staff member. They said, if you can work in these 3 words or phrases into your opening day speech, I'll buy you dinner. And so, of course, I'm going to work these 2 random vocabulary words, Gardaloo and Witterkins, and then the phrase happier than a raccoon snacking on a sweet tater. So I worked all three of these phrases into my speech.
Great.
And so that's going to be a contest now. Our PR person, our kind of HR PR person, is going to send an email out a couple weeks beforehand saying, all right, if you'd like the superintendent to, you want us to propose a word or phrase, and she'll pick the best ones, and I have to figure out how to get them in there. It's just something where people feel connected to, and it's fun. It's fun.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, we are the biggest proponents of fun. Goes a long way. If you want to change behavior, if you want to have people, what are we doing as a culture to go out of our way to make things enjoyable and fun? And I applaud you. And I think that's a really clever idea.
So like last year, we had a later start because they put a roundabout right out here in between the intersection of our buildings. So we kicked off with this video where at Clark Shawnee, we turn right to go left, right? That was our theme. So our funny video for the year was, I'm standing outside my office. I'm like, all right, guys, we're going to talk about the budget, but I got to go to the bathroom. And then they're like, well, Mr. Kuhn, you can't turn left to go to the bathroom. You got to go right. So I turn right and run through all the buildings, every lobby, the cafeterias, come back in through the main door of the board office to get to the restroom, which was 10 feet down the hall. We go right to go left. And so then that becomes a running joke throughout the year. A couple years back, I read a story about how when geese fly in a V, the last one is always honking to encourage others to keep up, to keep going. And so we as a staff have to spend time all throughout the year goosing each other to encourage to keep going. The geese don't let anybody fall behind. When you study that, someone always stays in the back to keep honking and encouraging. So we would get emails and teachers would say, hey, I'm sending you a goose. I'm goosing you. I noticed that you had a tough day, or I noticed that meeting was tough. I just want I'm goosing you, encouraging you, keep going. We're here for you. And so that became just a theme that randomly throughout the year, you get an email that says, I'm goosing you. Just stuff like that.
I love it, Brian. I love those examples. And as you think about that theme for this year on the recharge, I would remind them that why are we doing the recharge? Ultimately, so that it's important for you to be at your best if you're going to help someone else become their best.
Yep.
That
you can't give what we don't have.
Yeah, and always circling back to what that means for students. Of course, I'm focusing on recharging you, but we think that's so important because we know that you have to give your all to them. I love it.
Brian, if I can say another thing you got going on that's excellent there is, it sounds as though with the goose example and others, your staff are beginning to encourage and lift each other up. Now, it's one thing that the leadership has to model that, but you're cooking when the rank and file begin to do that amongst themselves. Now, that's the idea of the theme. Is it actually getting into our DNA? Or is it getting, so that's well done. That's fabulous.
For years, we did, think Jimmy Fallon thank you notes. We wrote thank you notes at the opening day comic. Thank you, ODE, for some new initiative, just comical stuff. And that just became part of the culture. People were looking forward to those. So it's, how do you build tradition, right? This is not routine. It becomes tradition, and everybody wants to be part of tradition, and they look forward to tradition. We've got them in our families. So how do we build that into the school culture? We share with our staff, a rising tide floats all the ships. So when everything starts to rise, like no matter where you are, it's going to lift all the ships.
Thank you, Brian. Megan or Alan or Lauren, any other questions or things you want to share or you'd like us to touch on?
I just want to add the importance that we found video can add, especially, we've used it. Rolling out new initiatives is always something hard that people are, because it's change, right? And that rolling out new things is always the big thing on Convocation, what that is. And, one year it was adding security cameras, and you had a lot of people afraid you're going to be watching me while I'm working, making sure I'm here at, the staff was afraid we were using it to watch them. But so we made this video, and it was things the security camera caught, so a live view of what the security camera is looking at. And meanwhile, so the superintendent's back was turned to the screen, so he had no idea what was up there. He was acting, and he said he had to read these things that by law he had to read these things to the staff. And while he's reading them, we have pictures of the custodian sleeping on the couch, a teacher breaking into a vending machine to get a bag of chips, all these different things. And it worked really well, and everyone was laughing over everything the superintendent was saying, which was great. But of course, we also got an email saying, I want a transcript of everything the superintendent said during his speech because we feel like you were trying to pull one on us and he really had to say these things. And but I think it was worth it, and trust did grow out of that ultimately, and it worked. But you can also use video to tug on heartstrings, you know. During COVID, especially, we made this video of everything we had been through, and by the end of the video, there already wasn't a dry eye in the house. Um, but you know, we had kids at the end thanking the teachers. We pulled some kids and had them send in Zoom videos of just like sending your appreciation not only to the teachers but all the staff. And it's important to remember all the staff, you know. And then the curtain opened and all the kids were on stage thanking the teachers as well in person, and it ended up really, really nice.
Alan, I think that's a great point in terms of the power of the video, because they're fun, they're entertaining. You can use them to drive home multiple different points. They're memorable. I agree. We know superintendent that kind of capitalized on the popularity of Top Gun last year. So they had a really good video editor. And so there were like clips of the movie, but it was actually the superintendent's face as he's climbing into the jet and everything. And it was just really well done to help share some of the I mean, there's a caution there. It can turn out really cheesy and bad too. But if you got the right video editors, it can be a lot of fun.
And
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with cheesy sometimes either.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Um, yeah. Good. I know we're wrapping up here. We want to make sure that we're respectful of your time. We'll be glad to stay on for a few minutes if anyone has additional conversations or anything else they want to share. Brian, thanks for sharing another link there. I put that link to that music video that we did back in 2016, or the music performance we did in 2016. You can see how that played out on an opening day. But again, thank you to all of you for your time this morning. We know it's well, it is summer. It's still a busy time of year as you are wrapping up this past school year and thinking about August already. So thanks for your time.
And as you get going, obviously, that'd be the shameless plug. We're the Impact Group, and we love working with school districts. We do strategic planning and strategic communications, crisis communications, and we really work with staffs too to make them the very best positive they can be. So if you have any needs, we'd be honored to partner with you to get those needs squared away.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great afternoon.